There are mornings when getting out of bed feels heavier than the day itself, when your mind is awake, but your heart isn't ready yet. You know you have things to do, dreams to chase, responsibilities to honor, but something inside you whispers, "Not today." And the truth is, everyone has days like that. Days when motivation disappears. Days when your energy feels distant. Days when the weight of your own expectations sits on your chest like a stone. You sit in silence, feeling the battle between what you want to do and what you must do. Because wanting to grow and being willing to grow are not the same thing. And that gap between desire and action is where many people stay stuck for years. You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow. You promise you just need a little more inspiration. You wait for the perfect mood, the perfect moment, the perfect burst of motivation that will finally make everything easier. But motivation is a guest, comes and goes on its own. It shows up when life feels exciting and disappears when life feels heavy. If your future depends on motivation, your future will always be unstable, because the life you want won't be built on days when you feel inspired. It will be built on days when you don't feel like doing anything at all, but you do it anyway, not because it feels good, but because it's who you're becoming. Action taken without motivation is one of the most powerful forms of growth. It's discipline speaking, when your emotions refuse to cooperate. It's purpose leading, when your energy is missing. It's strength rising from places inside you that you didn't even know existed. Some of your most important decisions will happen on days when you don't feel ready. Some of your biggest breakthroughs will begin on mornings when you'd rather stay exactly where you are. Some of your deepest growth will come from steps you take with shaking hands and a tired spirit, because consistency is not built on feeling good. It's built on showing up, even when your heart is heavy, even when your mind is tired, even when your confidence is low, even when your motivation is gone. This is the doorway that separates dreamers from doers. Dreamers move when they feel like it. Doers move because it's time. And every time you push forward, on a day when you don't feel like it, you strengthen something inside you that cannot be taken away. You build integrity. You build endurance. You build self-respect. You prove to yourself that your future doesn't depend on your mood. It depends on your commitment. And it's in those quiet, difficult moments that your identity begins to transform. Because the person who keeps going when it's easy is common. But the person who keeps going when it's hard, that person becomes unstoppable. This is where your journey begins, in the tension between what you feel and what you choose. And as you step into this truth, another realization rises with it. The smallest action, on the days you don't feel ready, is worth more than the biggest action, on the days you feel inspired. There's a kind of resistance that doesn't shout, it doesn't scream, it doesn't knock you down, it just sits quietly inside you. A heaviness, a slow pull, quiet fog, that makes every simple task feel like climbing a mountain. You know the feeling, you've lived it, that moment when you stare at what you need to do, and your mind creates 1,000 soft excuses. I'll start in an hour. I'm too tired. Maybe tomorrow. Not because you're lazy, not because you don't want to grow, but because resistance appears every time you get close to becoming someone new. The closer you move toward progress, discipline, or change, the louder resistance whispers, and it whispers in the language you find hardest to fight. Comfort. Comfort tells you there's no rush. Comfort tells you You've already done enough. Comfort tells you, you deserve a break, even when what you really deserve is momentum. Resistance isn't your enemy. It's a mirror. It reflects the fear beneath your goals. It reflects the doubt beneath your dreams. It reflects the insecurity beneath your discipline. You resist, not because you're weak, but because you're stepping into territory your old self has never walked through. It's normal. It's human. It's part of growth. Every meaningful transformation starts with a moment of hesitation. Every breakthrough begins with internal friction. Every identity shift creates emotional resistance. But here's the part most people never hear. Resistance doesn't mean stop. It means continue carefully, not aggressively, not violently, but with intention, with steadiness, with presence. Because the goal isn't to eliminate resistance. The goal is to walk through it, to take the step, even when your mind is tired, to do the small task, even when your mood is low, to show up, even when everything inside you begs for delay. That's how discipline is born, not in the moments of clarity, but in the moments of conflict. The truth is, you don't avoid resistance by waiting. You avoid resistance by moving. Movement breaks the fog. Movement activates momentum. Movement wakes up the part of you that remembers who you want to become. You've had days when taking one small action completely shifted your energy. A simple task, a small step, a quiet decision, not because it solved everything, but because it reminded you that you're still capable. Resistance loses power every time you choose action over emotion, every time you choose commitment over comfort, every time you choose direction over delay. And gradually, the person who felt stuck begins to feel steady. The person who felt lost begins to feel guided. The person who didn't feel like moving begins to move anyway. And that shift, that subtle, almost invisible shift, becomes the foundation for the rest of your transformation. Because beyond resistance lies the version of you that actually creates the life you want. And the next truth waiting for you is this: you don't need to feel strong to take a strong step. We grow up believing that strength is something you wait for, something you feel, something that arrives before the action. But strength has never been the starting point. Strength is the consequence. You don't feel confident, and then take the step. You take the step, and then confidence grows. You don't feel ready, and then move forward. You move forward, and readiness appears along the way. This is why so many people stay stuck. They're waiting to feel powerful before they act. But emotions follow movement. They don't lead it. Your fear will not leave until you walk through it. Your doubt will not fade until you do the thing you're avoiding. Your insecurity will not soften until you show yourself that you can rise above it. Strength is built in motion. Think of every moment in your life when you surprised yourself, when you faced something you thought would break you, yet you walked through it anyway. That strength did not exist before the moment. It was born because of the moment. Every challenge you acted through, every fear you stepped into, every difficult season you survived, each one carved strength into you in ways comfort never could. And it's the same with discipline. Discipline is not a personality trait. It's not luck. It's not something some people are born with, and others are not. Discipline is a muscle, and like any muscle, it grows when it is used. Not on the days when you feel inspired, not on the days when you're overflowing with energy, but on the days when everything inside you says, stop. and you take one more step anyway. A tiny step, a quiet step, a step no one else sees, but a step that changes the direction of your life. Because once you understand that strength comes from action, not from emotion, you stop waiting. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop postponing your growth until conditions feel perfect. You realize that the version of you who has everything you want is not built by comfort, but by courage. Courage is not dramatic. It's not loud. It's not cinematic. Courage is often very simple. Doing the thing you don't feel like doing. Making the call. Starting the task. Going to the gym. Turning off distractions. Finishing the project. Small things with enormous impact. This is how identity changes. This is how self-respect grows. This is how momentum begins. Every time you act, when you don't feel like it, you send a message to yourself. My feelings are not stronger than my future. And that message, repeated over and over, reshapes who you become. You start trusting yourself more. You start relying on your discipline more than your mood. You start developing an inner strength that doesn't collapse every time life gets heavy, because strength is not something you wait to feel. Strength is something you create by moving. And once you understand this truth, you begin to see another one clearly. Action is not the enemy of fear. Action is the antidote. Fear grows in silence. It grows in delay. It grows in the empty space between intention and action. The longer you wait, the louder fear becomes. The more you hesitate, the heavier everything feels. The more you think about the task, the more impossible it starts to look. Fear feeds on imagination. Action feeds on reality. And the moment you take even the smallest step, fear loses oxygen. It shrinks. It softens. It becomes manageable. Not because the situation changed, but because you changed. Action puts you back in the driver's seat of your life. It reminds you that you are capable of movement, even when your mind feels frozen. You've experienced this before. Think of the tasks you resisted for days, only to realize once you started, they weren't nearly as overwhelming as you imagined. The fear wasn't in the task. The fear was in the waiting. This is why action is the antidote to fear. Not massive action, not perfect action, not dramatic action, just action. Any action, a single step, is enough to break the cycle. Because fear thrives when everything stays in your head. But action brings things into the real world, where they can be handled, improved, and completed. When you act, you interrupt the story fear is trying to tell you. You interrupt the thought that says you're not ready. You interrupt the belief that says you're not capable. You interrupt the narrative that says you'll fail. Action proves fear wrong. In real time, you begin to see that the monster was never as big as the shadow it cast. You begin to realize that the hardest part wasn't doing the task, it was thinking about it. Action brings clarity. Action brings momentum. Action brings confidence. And confidence doesn't come from knowing the whole path. Confidence comes from seeing that you can take the next step without falling apart. When you act through fear, something powerful happens inside you. You stop being controlled by your emotions. You start being guided by your intentions. You stop living reactively. You start living deliberately. The old version of you, the one who avoided, delayed, resisted, begins to fade. A new version, the one who moves, decides, chooses, begins to form. And with each step, fear loses authority. you start to understand. That fear isn't a stop sign. It's a signal that you're entering territory worthy of growth. Fear appears not when you're doing something wrong, but when you're doing something meaningful. Because meaningful things stretch you, challenge you, force you to evolve. And evolution is always uncomfortable. But you don't build a stronger life by avoiding discomfort. You build it by leaning into the moments that ask more of you than you feel ready to give. That's where your courage grows. That's where your identity shifts. That's where your future begins to change. And once you learn that action dissolves fear, you're ready for the next truth. Consistency isn't about intensity. It's about returning again and again, even when you'd rather walk away. One of the greatest misunderstandings about growth, discipline, and success is the belief that you must push yourself with intensity to change your life. People romanticize the idea of dramatic transformation, the long nights, the sudden breakthroughs, the powerful bursts of motivation that fix everything at once. But that's not how real progress works. Intensity might impress you for a moment, but consistency transforms you for a lifetime. Intensity burns hot and burns out. Consistency burns steady and builds strength quietly. Every meaningful life, every stable future, every strong identity is formed through small actions, repeated over time. Not explosive energy, not emotional highs, not once-in-a-while effort, but the quiet, steady rhythm of doing what matters, even when you don't feel like it. Consistency is boring to the ego, but essential to the soul. It's not glamorous. It's not dramatic. It doesn't give you instant satisfaction, but it gives you something deeper. Momentum. Momentum is what carries you when motivation disappears. Momentum is what protects you from falling back into old habits. Momentum is what helps you move without forcing yourself every single time. And momentum is only created by consistency. Think about a wheel. The first push is the hardest because everything is still. But once it starts moving, each push becomes easier. Each movement becomes lighter. Each step takes less effort. Your life works the same way. The first day you take action feels heavy. The second day still feels uncomfortable. But somewhere along the way, without realizing it, a shift happens inside you. What once felt difficult begins to feel natural. What once felt unfamiliar begins to feel like part of who you are. What once drained your energy begins to give you energy. This is the power of consistency. It transforms effort into identity. You stop trying to be disciplined, and you simply become disciplined. You stop forcing yourself to take action, and you simply act, because consistency turns the behavior into a habit, and the habit into a part of your character. Intensity can change your day. Consistency can change your life. It's not about doing it perfectly. It's about showing up regularly, even if it's small, even if it's slow, even if it's imperfect. 5 minutes of action every day is more powerful than an hour of effort once a week. Small step taken every morning is more powerful than a giant leap taken once in a while. Consistency respects your humanity. It understands that you will have bad days, tired days, unmotivated days, but it also understands that progress doesn't require perfection, just presence. When you show up, your life responds, your mindset shifts, your identity strengthens, your path becomes clearer, and as consistency settles into your routine, Another realization slowly emerges. Discipline doesn't begin with strong actions. Discipline begins with strong decisions. Before discipline becomes a habit, before it becomes a lifestyle, before it becomes part of your identity, it begins as one simple choice. A quiet decision, a private decision, a decision nobody celebrates, nobody sees, nobody applauds. A decision you make in the silence of your own mind, when no one is watching, and no one will ever know whether you followed through or not. That's where discipline begins. Not in the big goals, not in the inspirational speeches, not in the moment of excitement, but in that very small moment, when you ask yourself, am I going to show up today, or am I going to break the promise I made to myself? This moment is the birthplace of either your progress or your stagnation. The truth is, every day you are shaping your identity with tiny decisions. When you choose action over avoidance, you become someone who moves. When you choose progress over excuses, you become someone who grows. When you choose commitment over comfort, you become someone who can be trusted by others, and more importantly, by yourself. Every decision strengthens a pathway in your mind. Every decision carves a pattern into your character. Every decision builds or breaks the relationship you have with yourself. You don't struggle with discipline because you're incapable. You struggle with discipline because you underestimate the power of one decision. That one small choice doesn't matter, but it does, because that choice is you practicing becoming the person you said you wanted to be. If you make the choice today, you're more likely to make it again tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. Discipline is not created by looking at the entire staircase. It's created by taking the step that's in front of you. One decision, then another, then another. It doesn't matter if the action is small. What matters is that you chose it. There is a sacredness in these private decisions. No applause, no validation, no recognition. Just you, quietly proving to yourself that you are becoming someone who honors their own intentions. That's how character is built. That's how trust is built. That's how self-respect is built. You stop breaking promises to yourself. You stop negotiating with your laziness. You stop listening to the voice that tries to convince you that today doesn't matter. Every time you keep the promise, you strengthen a new identity, an identity that doesn't collapse when life gets hard. This is the beginning of true discipline, the decision that no matter how you feel, you will still move. And as this truth settles in, another realization rises quietly behind it. Taking action every day is not about doing a lot. It's about refusing to do nothing. Most people think daily action means pushing yourself to the limit every single day. But that's not sustainable. And it's not necessary. Daily action isn't about intensity. It's about continuity. It's about refusing to let a single day become a day of nothing. Because once you allow nothing to happen today, it becomes easier to allow it tomorrow, and easier the next day. And before you know it, your dreams start slipping through the cracks created by tiny moments of surrender. Not zero is one of the most powerful philosophies for building any meaningful life. Not perfect, not impressive, not extreme, just not zero. One paragraph written, one page read, one email sent, one idea organized, one workout started, even if it's only 5 minutes, one action taken toward the person you want to become, small enough to never overwhelm you, consistent enough to change everything. The truth is, your life doesn't transform because of giant leaps. It transforms because of small steps repeated. On days when you would rather do nothing, when you choose not zero, you tell your mind that progress is still happening. You keep your momentum alive. You keep your discipline awake. You keep your identity aligned with your future, not your feelings. Most people abandon their goals, not because it's too hard, but because they expect too much from themselves. On every single day, they demand intensity, and when intensity isn't available, they give up altogether. But those who grow consistently understand something wiser. If you can't do a lot today, do a little. If you can't move fast today, move slow. If you can't climb the mountain today, take one step toward it, because one step is infinitely more powerful than no steps. The human mind responds to direction, not perfection. When you end your day knowing you did something, anything, you reinforce your identity as someone who takes action, and that identity is what carries you through the hard seasons, the tired seasons, the unmotivated seasons. Every day you choose not zero. You keep your promise alive. You protect your momentum. You maintain your connection to the future you're building. You create a life that doesn't rely on emotional highs. You create a life that grows even in the lows. And gradually, almost silently, you become the kind of person who always moves, even when the movement is small. This is how real transformation happens. This is how daily action becomes natural. This is how you build a life that expands instead of contracts. And once not zero becomes your foundation, you are ready for the next truth. Discipline grows faster when you learn how to work with your emotions instead of fighting against them. Most people believe they need to fight their emotions to stay disciplined, force themselves, push harder, ignore how they feel. But trying to overpower your emotions is like trying to stop a wave with your hands. It exhausts you, drains you, and eventually pulls you under. You were never meant to fight your emotions. You were meant to understand them. Because emotions aren't obstacles. They're signals, messages, direction. The problem is that most people never stop long enough to listen. When you feel resistance, your mind isn't telling you to quit. It's telling you you're entering a territory of growth. When you feel fear, your mind isn't warning you of danger. It's warning you of expansion, of stepping into something unfamiliar. That requires a stronger version of you. When you feel low energy, your body isn't telling you to stop forever. It's asking you for a gentler step, not a complete retreat. And when you feel unmotivated, your spirit isn't telling you to abandon your path. It's telling you you've been disconnected from your why. Your emotions are not the enemy. Your avoidance is. The more you avoid, the louder your emotions become. But the moment you acknowledge them, they soften. You don't have to fight the sadness. Just move with it. You don't have to eliminate the fear. Just walk beside it. You don't have to overcome the doubt. Just take one step while holding it. Your emotions don't need to disappear for you to move forward. They just need to be understood. Some days, your step will be strong. Other days, it will be slow. And some days, all you can offer is a small action taken with a tired heart. But action taken with a tired heart still counts. In fact, it counts more. Because discipline isn't the absence of emotion. It's the ability to act in the presence of emotion, you start learning how to use your emotional state instead of fighting it. If you're anxious, you take a calming step. If you're overwhelmed, you take a simple step. If you're unmotivated, you take a small step. If you're discouraged, you take a compassionate step. Every emotional state has a step that matches it. The old version of you wanted perfect conditions. The new version of you learns to move inside imperfect conditions. That's where discipline matures. That's where identity deepens. That's where self-respect grows. Because you're no longer saying, "I'll act when I feel better." You're saying, "I'll act, and feeling better will follow." You're no longer waiting for motivation to give you permission. You're no longer letting exhaustion define your direction. You're no longer letting fear decide your future. You begin to see your emotions as part of the journey, not barriers to it. You learn to hold them, walk with them, grow beside them. And in this quiet partnership between emotion and action, you discover something profound. Your emotions don't dictate your life. Your decisions do. And once this truth settles, you're ready for the next stage, learning how small, intentional actions can transform even the heaviest days. There are days when everything feels heavier than usual, days when your thoughts move slowly, your energy feels distant, and even the simplest task looks overwhelming. These are the days most people surrender to. They wait for the mood to change, for the energy to return, for the spark to come back. But you're learning something different now. You're learning that even on your heaviest days, a single intentional action can shift your entire direction. Not because the action is big, but because the action is yours. Small, deliberate movement has the power to break emotional gravity. Think about the days when you forced yourself to do just one simple thing, to clean a corner of a room, to answer one message, to take a short walk, to start the task you've been avoiding. Something subtle happened. Your mind softened. Your chest loosened. Your energy shifted, just enough to make the next step possible. That is the quiet power of small actions on heavy days. They don't fix everything. They don't erase the emotion. They don't turn the day into perfection. But they give you a thread of momentum, a thread strong enough to pull you out of the emotional mud. Because heaviness doesn't disappear by thinking your way out of it. It disappears by moving your way through it. A mind stuck in heaviness needs movement, not pressure. The old you blamed yourself for not doing enough. The new you understands that enough simply means, I moved today, in some direction, at some pace, with some intention. One small action can interrupt a spiral. One small action can quiet the noise. One small action can give your mind proof that you're not stuck. You're simply moving slowly. Small actions are acts of self-respect, acts of self-love, acts of emotional leadership. Because you're telling your heart, I know today is heavy, but we're not stopping here. You're telling your mind, I don't need to do everything, just something. You're telling your spirit, even on my lowest days, I rise. And when you repeat this pattern, day after day, something powerful begins to happen. You start building emotional momentum. Momentum that protects you from the collapse. Momentum that reduces the length of your low days. Momentum that makes discipline feel more natural and less forced. You realize that you don't need a perfect day to create progress. You don't need a perfect mood to honor your goals. You don't need a perfect mindset to move forward. You simply need a small, intentional action that says, I'm still in this. This is how identity shifts. This is how resilience grows. This is how you transform the kind of person you are on your hardest days, the days that matter the most. And once you understand the power of small actions, you're ready for the next truth. Consistency becomes natural when your environment starts supporting your discipline instead of fighting it. Most people try to change their lives using willpower alone. They push, they force, they strain, they rely on motivation, on emotion, on inner pressure to keep moving every day. But willpower is inconsistent. Emotions fluctuate. Energy rises and falls. Motivation comes and goes. You cannot build a stable life on unstable forces. So instead of relying only on willpower, you create something stronger, an environment that does the work with you. Your environment can either fight your discipline or fuel it, and most people never realize how much their environment is quietly working against them. The clutter on the desk kills your desire to start. The notifications on your phone pull your attention apart. The people you surround yourself with either reinforce your growth or reinforce your stagnation. The noise around you drowns the whispers of your own purpose. It's not lack of discipline that holds most people back. It's an environment that constantly pulls them in the opposite direction. Here's the truth few people understand. Your surroundings shape your actions long before your intentions do. A clean space makes it easier to begin. A quiet room makes it easier to think. A defined workspace makes it easier to focus. A supportive circle makes it easier to persist. A healthy routine makes it easier to stay consistent. Your environment can turn discipline from something you fight for into something that flows naturally. Imagine trying to grow a strong tree in dry, cracked soil. You can water it every day, but it will always struggle because the environment isn't helping it grow. Now imagine that same tree in rich, nourishing soil. Suddenly, growth becomes easier, natural, almost effortless. You are that tree. Your environment is the soil. Discipline grows fastest in places where it doesn't have to fight for survival. You don't need a perfect environment. You just need one that supports who you are becoming. So you start making small shifts. You place your phone far from your workspace, not because you're weak, but because you're wise. You lay out your clothes the night before the gym, not because you're dramatic, but because you understand that friction kills consistency. You clean the corner of the room where you work, not because it's aesthetic, but because clarity begins in the space around you before it enters the space within you. You spend more time with people who move forward and less time with people who stay still, not because you're better than them, but because environments are contagious. Growth is contagious. Stagnation is contagious. Discipline is contagious. Laziness is contagious. You don't just catch emotions from the people around you. You catch habits. You catch standards. You catch expectations. And once your environment is aligned with your growth, something powerful happens. You no longer rely on emotional strength to take action. Your environment pulls you toward action, even on the days when your emotions resist. This is how you reduce resistance. This is how you make discipline easier. This is how you increase consistency without increasing pressure. And when your environment supports you, you begin to see another truth clearly. Taking action every day isn't about having more time. It's about having fewer excuses. Most excuses don't sound dramatic. They sound reasonable. They sound logical. They sound gentle. And that's why they are dangerous. Excuses rarely say, "Don't grow. Don't improve. Don't move." Instead, they whisper, "Not today. Maybe tomorrow. You've already done enough. You're too tired. You deserve a break." Excuses don't stop your life. They slow it quietly. One delayed action. One skipped habit. One postponed intention. Not enough to feel like failure, but enough to break the rhythm that your future depends on. Excuses kill momentum in tiny, gentle ways. And the truth is, most people don't struggle with discipline. They struggle with clarity. Because when you're unclear, excuses feel justified. When you're unclear, distractions feel harmless. When you're unclear, delay feels reasonable. Clarity is what destroys excuses. When you know what matters, what needs to be done, and why it matters to you, your mind becomes sharper. Your decisions become cleaner. Your excuses lose their power. Clarity doesn't create discipline. It removes the friction that prevents discipline. You don't need to be stronger. You need to be clearer. Clear about your priorities. Clear about your direction. Clear about what your future requires. Clear about what your old self can no longer afford to do. When you gain clarity, you stop negotiating with yourself. You stop doubting your next step. You stop trying to convince yourself to feel ready. You stop wasting time on choices that don't move you forward. You simplify. You focus. You choose with intention. Clarity creates emotional order. It quiets the chaos. It brings your energy back into alignment. And from that alignment, daily action becomes easier. Not because life gets lighter, but because your direction gets stronger. You begin to structure your routines around what actually matters. You stop filling your day with tasks that look productive, but mean nothing. You cut the noise. You reduce the options. You eliminate the unnecessary, because simplicity is one of the greatest tools for destroying excuses. The more simple your process, the harder it becomes to justify not doing it. It's easy to skip something. That takes an hour. Harder to skip something. That takes 5 minutes. It's easy to avoid something. That feels overwhelming. Harder to avoid something. That feels clear and doable. This is how clarity weakens resistance. This is how simplicity strengthens discipline. You stop creating stories about why you can't move forward. You start creating conditions that make moving forward natural. You learn that excuses lose their power when your purpose becomes louder. And once your excuses shrink, you're ready for the next truth. Discipline becomes deeper when you learn to embrace discomfort instead of avoiding it. Discomfort is one of the most misunderstood parts of personal growth. Most people think discomfort is a sign that something is wrong, a sign that they're going too fast, a sign that they're not ready, a sign that the goal isn't right for them. But discomfort isn't danger. Discomfort is development. Every meaningful transformation requires you to stretch beyond what feels familiar. Growth and comfort do not coexist. If you wait to feel comfortable before taking action, you will spend your life waiting. Because the truth is simple. If it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. Discomfort is the space where the old version of you meets the new one. It's the bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. And crossing that bridge never feels easy. Your mind wants familiarity. Your heart wants safety. Your emotions want reassurance. But your purpose wants evolution. This is why taking action often feels uncomfortable, not because the task is impossible, but because the identity required to complete it is not yet fully formed. Discomfort is not punishment. It is preparation. It's the stretching of your resilience, the training of your discipline, the refining of your patience, the strengthening of your character. Think about any moment in your past when you grew as a person, truly grew. It wasn't during the easy seasons. It wasn't during the comfortable moments. It was during the times when you were stretched, challenged, uncertain, or emotionally overwhelmed. You didn't grow because life was gentle. You grew because life asked more of you than you felt ready to give, and somehow you found it within you. So now, when discomfort appears, you no longer see it as a stop sign. You see it as a signal. You're entering the territory where transformation actually happens. When you embrace discomfort, you stop avoiding the tasks that lead to progress. You stop fearing the moments that require strength. You stop running from the feelings that stretch your capacity. You begin to understand that discomfort isn't there to break you. It's there to build you. And you don't need to enjoy it. You don't need to love it. You don't need to pretend it feels good. You simply need to accept that it's part of the journey. Just like sweat is part of exercise. Just like friction is part of motion. Just like pressure is part of growth. When you stop resisting discomfort, you reclaim power. You stop letting your emotions dictate your decisions. You stop letting fear control your pace. You stop letting temporary feelings destroy long-term progress. You learn to breathe through tension. You learn to move through resistance. You learn to act, even when everything inside you craves escape. This is where real maturity forms. This is where discipline deepens. This is where your identity begins to shift into someone who follows through, no matter how they feel. And slowly, you begin to notice something. Discomfort loses its power when you stop fighting it. And once discomfort becomes familiar, you're ready for the next truth. Taking action every day becomes easier when you stop relying on emotion and start relying on structure. There comes a point in your journey when you realize something profound. You cannot depend on how you feel to build the life you want. Emotions are waves, beautiful, powerful, but constantly shifting. You cannot anchor your future to something that changes every day. This is why inner structure becomes essential. Structure is the framework that holds your discipline when your emotions collapse. It's the rhythm that keeps you steady when your energy fades. It's the order that guides you forward when your motivation disappears. Structure is not rigidity. Structure is support. Structure is stability. Structure is self-respect. Most people fail, not because they lack motivation, but because they lack structure. They rely on emotion instead of creating systems. They wait to feel like starting instead of building routines that start automatically. They wait for inspiration instead of designing an environment that removes friction. But once you create structure, your life begins to shift in ways that feel almost effortless, because structure reduces the decisions you need to make. And the fewer decisions you make, the more energy you save for what truly matters. Structure simplifies your day, simplifies your choices, simplifies your direction. You wake up knowing exactly what needs to be done, not because you feel inspired, but because your structure already decided for you. This is where discipline becomes lighter. This is where action becomes natural. This is where momentum becomes sustainable. Your structure becomes a quiet agreement with yourself. No matter how I feel today, I know what I need to do. A simple routine, a clear schedule, a defined place to work, a consistent time to begin, a small checklist that reminds you of your path. These small anchors keep you grounded when your emotions try to pull you under. Structure doesn't care whether you're tired or unmotivated. Structure doesn't negotiate. Structure doesn't hesitate. Structure simply guides you back to the next step. And here's what most people don't realize. Structure protects your willpower. When you rely on willpower, you burn out quickly. When you rely on structure, you conserve your strength for the tasks that matter most. Structure carries you through the days when your emotions would have stopped you. Structure makes discipline repeatable. Structure frees your mind from the chaos of indecision. And as this framework becomes part of you, something deep begins to change. You stop asking, "Do I feel like it?" You start asking, "What's the next step my structure requires?" And that shift from emotion to structure is where real transformation begins. Because once structure supports you, you gain access to a new truth. The person you become is shaped more by your habits than by your motivation. And the habits you build will guide you into a future stronger than anything your past could have prepared you for. There is a moment in every journey when discipline stops feeling like a task and starts feeling like truth. A quiet truth, a steady truth, a truth that shapes who you are becoming. Because the more consistent you become, the more you begin to trust yourself. And self-trust is one of the rarest forms of power. Most people break their own trust without even noticing. They make promises and don't keep them. They set goals and abandon them. They dream big and act small, not because they lack intention, but because they don't yet believe that they can rely on themselves. But each time you take action, even when you don't feel like it, you rebuild that trust. You send a message inward. I follow through. I do what I say. My feelings don't decide my future. And slowly, something shifts. Your identity begins to change. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries. You begin to see yourself as someone who shows up. You stop seeing discipline as something external, forcing you to obey. You begin to see discipline as something internal, expressing who you are. This is where inner peace grows, not from avoiding responsibility, but from becoming someone who honors it. You begin to enjoy the feeling of being aligned with your intentions. You begin to appreciate the quiet satisfaction of knowing you are moving forward. You stop living in emotional chaos. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop delaying your own progress, because your habits have become part of you. And the more this identity strengthens, the more you notice something else. Your emotional resistance weakens. Your inner battles quiet down. Your doubts lose their authority. You no longer wake up wondering, will today be one of those days when I can't get anything done? Because your identity answers for you. No, today I show up. The old version of you relied on mood. The new version of you relies on character. The old version of you needed motivation. The new version of you needs direction. The old version of you ran from discomfort. The new version of you moves through it. This is the transformation most people never reach. They change their goals, but not their identity. They change their plans, but not their habits. They change their words, but not their actions. But you're learning. That lasting change comes from the inside out. It's not the action itself. It's who you become because of the action. Every small step shapes the person you're turning into. Every moment of follow-through rewires your sense of self. Every day you act, despite how you feel, cements your new identity, deeper into your character. And once your identity shifts, your life follows, because your identity sets your standards, and your standards determine your direction. You rise, quietly, steadily, honestly, and with that inner rise comes the next truth. When you become someone who follows through, life begins to open doors that once felt impossible to reach.